The tension in the View studio was palpable as Donald Trump took his seat across from Whoopi Goldberg. This wasn't just another political debate. It was a cultural showdown between one of television's most dominant voices and a former president known for his unapologetic approach. Whoopi, famous for steering conversations in her favor, was prepared to challenge Trump head-on. The audience, typically supportive of the show's progressive stance, watched with anticipation. From the moment Trump spoke, the atmosphere shifted. Whoopi opened with a pointed remark. "Do you realize how much division you've caused in America?" Expecting to put him on the defensive, but Trump didn't flinch. Instead, he calmly countered, "I didn't divide America, I just exposed the problems that were already there." A murmur rippled through the audience. For the first time, Whoopi wasn't the only one controlling the narrative, and the battle had only just begun. From the moment Donald Trump took his seat across from Whoopi Goldberg, it was clear that this would be no ordinary episode of The View. The tension was thick, the audience was on edge, and both figures were prepared for battle. Whoopi, known for her sharp-tongued rebuttals and ability to dominate conversations, was ready to confront Trump head-on. Across from her, the former president sat composed, unshaken, and ready to challenge her every word. Whoopi struck first. "Mr. Trump, do you even acknowledge the division your presidency caused, the rhetoric, the policies that set this country back?" Her tone was pointed, designed to put him on the defensive, but Trump didn't flinch. Instead, he smirked slightly before responding. "Whoopi, I didn't create division, I exposed it. The problems were always there, but people like you and your media friends covered them up. I forced America to face the truth." A murmur rippled through the audience. This wasn't the response they had expected. Usually conservative guests fumbled under pressure, struggling to get a word in. But Trump wasn't struggling, he was thriving. Whoopi, sensing the shift, leaned in. "So, the protests, the racial tensions, the global backlash, none of that was on you?" Trump shook his head. "I'll tell you what caused chaos. A media that pushed false narratives. A political system that silences anyone who thinks differently. You sit here, controlling the discussion, deciding which opinions matter and which ones don't. That's the real problem." The energy in the room shifted. Whoopi's co-hosts exchanged uneasy glances. Normally they dictated the flow of the conversation, but now Trump was steering it. Realizing she needed to regain control, Whoopi changed tactics. "You claim to support free speech, but let's be honest, you and your supporters attack the media constantly, calling us the enemy." Trump let out a small chuckle. "Because you weren't being honest. When someone like me speaks out, you call it dangerous. But when you control the narrative, it's suddenly progressive dialogue? That's not free speech. That's manipulation." For the first time, Whoopi hesitated. The usual laughter and cheers from the audience didn't come. Instead, some audience members exchanged glances, quietly processing Trump's words. She took a deep breath and pivoted again. "Mr. Trump, let's not pretend you've been silenced. You still have millions hanging on to your every word." Trump leaned forward slightly. "And yet here I am on your show being attacked. Tell me, Whoopi, when was the last time The View invited someone who truly disagreed with you and actually let them speak?" Silence. Whoopi's expression hardened. She wasn't used to being on the defensive. Frustrated, she leaned in. "People fear what your movement represents: hatred, division, dangerous rhetoric. Do you take responsibility for that?" Trump's smirk faded, his tone became serious. "I take responsibility for putting America first, for telling the truth even when it's unpopular. But Whoopi, let me ask you this. When will the media take responsibility for manipulating the public? When will you take responsibility for demonizing millions of Americans just because they don't share your views?" Another murmur spread through the audience. Even some of Whoopi's most loyal supporters seemed uncertain. Whoopi opened her mouth to respond, then stopped. For the first time in years, she had no comeback. The battle wasn't just between Trump and Whoopi anymore, it had become something bigger. A moment that forced everyone watching to reconsider everything they thought they knew. As The View aired its final moments, the usual cheers and applause were nowhere to be found. Whoopi Goldberg, once the unquestioned leader of the conversation, sat visibly unsettled. Donald Trump had done what few had managed before. He turned the debate against her, forcing the audience to question the very narratives they had been fed for years. Within minutes, social media erupted. Clips of the debate flooded Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube under titles like "Whoopi stunned into silence" and "Trump turns the tables on The View." Conservative outlets celebrated the moment as a victory for free speech, while mainstream networks scrambled to downplay the incident. But the biggest shock came from the audience itself. Normally a loyal base for Whoopi and The View, many now hesitated. Some even voiced support for Trump's argument, questioning whether the show had truly been a place for open discussion or just an ideological echo chamber. Back at ABC headquarters, executives held an emergency meeting. Sponsors were worried, ratings were in question, and discussions about the future of The View intensified. Could the show continue as it was, or would it be forced to evolve? This debate wasn't just about Whoopi versus Trump. It symbolized a growing shift in America, a moment where people dared to challenge the dominant narrative. What do you think? Did Trump truly outmaneuver Whoopi, or did The View expose something deeper? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, drop a 1 in the comment section to let me know. Your support means a lot to me. Now relax and move on to the next story. The courtroom was filled with tension as Elon Musk took his seat at the defendant's table. His expression remained calm, but he could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Across the room, Judge Marcus Greaves settled into his chair, his sharp gaze locking onto Musk like a predator eyeing its prey. Greaves was notorious for his no-nonsense approach, but today his words carried something more, a personal grudge. "Well, Mr. Musk," Greaves said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "The world's richest man, yet here you are, defending yourself like any common man. How ironic." A ripple of chuckles spread through the courtroom, but Musk didn't flinch. From the very first moments, it became clear that this wasn't just a trial, it was an ambush. The charges against Musk were serious, but the judge's relentless attacks made it evident that something deeper was at play. Each comment from Greaves felt like a calculated effort to tarnish Musk's reputation in front of the media. As the cameras flashed, Musk clenched his jaw. This wasn't just about a lawsuit anymore. Someone powerful was pulling the strings, and Musk was determined to find out who and why. As the trial progressed, Elon Musk began to realize that this was no ordinary legal battle. Something deeper, more sinister was lurking beneath the surface. The relentless attacks from Judge Marcus Greaves weren't just about the case at hand, they were personal. But why? Late one evening, Musk sat in his private office, staring at the city skyline through the glass window. His phone buzzed. It was Daniel Cole, his lead attorney. "Elon?" Cole's voice was hushed, urgent. "I think we've found something." Musk's pulse quickened. "Go on." Cole hesitated for a moment before speaking. "We ran a deep background check on Greaves. There's a paper trail, hidden transactions, offshore accounts. But that's not the worst part. He's connected to Alexander Rhodes." Musk froze. Rhodes was a corporate rival, a ruthless billionaire who had spent years trying to undermine Tesla and SpaceX. He controlled vast networks of influence in business and politics, and now, it seemed, in the courtroom as well. "You're telling me Greaves is working for Rhodes?" Musk asked, his voice edged with anger. "It's worse than that," Cole replied. "Greaves owes him, big time. There's evidence that Rhodes financed his campaign to secure the judicial seat. This whole trial, it's a setup, Elon. They don't just want to fine you, they want to bury you." Musk exhaled sharply. He had suspected corruption, but this was far bigger than he imagined. If Rhodes was pulling the strings, then the outcome of this trial had already been decided before it even started. A sudden knock on the door made Musk turn. It was Cynthia Moore, his trusted security specialist. "Elon," she said, her expression serious, "you need to see this." She handed him a tablet, playing a security footage clip. It showed an unmarked black car parked outside Tesla headquarters for hours. The same car had been spotted outside Musk's private residence the previous night. "They're watching you," Cynthia warned. "This isn't just about the courtroom anymore. You've rattled them." Musk's grip tightened on the tablet. He had faced threats before, but this was different. This wasn't just a legal battle. It was a war. Back in court the next day, Graves wasted no time launching into another attack. "Mr. Musk," he sneered, "are you trying to manipulate this court as easily as you manipulate stock prices?" The audience chuckled, the cameras flashed, but Musk wasn't rattled. He knew what was happening now. "I find it interesting, Your Honor," Musk said calmly, "that you seem more interested in attacking me than conducting a fair trial." Graves' eyes darkened. "You think you're above the law, Musk, but I assure you, you're not." Musk leaned forward. "Neither are you, Judge." The room fell silent. Graves' expression flickered for a brief moment. Was it fear? Musk had caught him off guard. After the hearing, Musk met Cole and Cynthia in a private location. "We need to turn the tables," he said. "If Rhodes and Graves think they can control this, they're wrong." Cole nodded. "I agree. We have enough to go public with this. The press will eat it up." "No," Musk said, his mind racing. "We don't just expose them, we make them panic." Cynthia smirked. "I like where this is going." Musk's eyes burned with determination. "We're going to play their game, and we're going to beat them at it." The conspiracy was deeper than he had imagined. But now Musk wasn't just fighting for his company. He was fighting to take down the entire corrupt system. And he wasn't going to stop until the truth was exposed. The moment had arrived. The courtroom was packed with reporters, their cameras poised to capture what could be the most explosive revelation of the trial. Elon Musk sat at the defendant's table, his expression unreadable. Judge Marcus Graves, once so confident, now looked uneasy. He knew what was coming. Musk's lead attorney, Daniel Cole, stood holding a thick folder. "Your Honor, we have new evidence," he announced, his voice steady. "Documents proving that Judge Graves has received undisclosed payments from Alexander Rhodes, a direct competitor of Mr. Musk. These payments compromise the integrity of this court." Gasps rippled through the audience. Graves's face turned pale. "That's absurd," he barked, but his voice lacked its usual authority. Musk leaned forward. "You wanted the truth, Your Honor?" His voice was calm but firm. "Here it is." The court erupted. The media exploded with headlines. Graves had no choice but to recuse himself, and a federal investigation was launched into the corruption Musk had exposed. This wasn't just about one trial. It was about a broken system, a fight against injustice that many face but few have the power to challenge. What do you think? Have you ever witnessed corruption or injustice? Comment below and share your thoughts. If you found this video interesting, drop a 1 in the comment section to let me know. Your support means a lot to me. Now relax and move on to the next story. Caroline Leavitt walked into the sleek, high-profile studio of Spotlight Tonight, a political talk show known for its no-nonsense, often confrontational approach. The set gleamed under the bright studio lights, and the audience, a mix of intrigued supporters and skeptical critics, settled into their seats, waiting for what they expected to be a tense exchange. At the center of it all sat Ethan Caldwell, a veteran journalist with a reputation for grilling politicians and turning interviews into viral soundbites. Dressed in a sharp professional navy blazer, Caroline exuded confidence. She had faced tough media scrutiny before, and tonight was no different. Ethan adjusted his tie, flashed a knowing smirk, and leaned back in his chair, fully expecting to control the narrative. His show thrived on breaking public figures, making them stumble on live TV. He had done it countless times before. Why would tonight be any different? The interview began with predictable questions about Caroline's time in politics, her rise in conservative circles, and her future ambitions. She answered smoothly, never giving more than necessary. But Ethan wasn't interested in small talk. He was waiting for the moment to strike, to put her on the defensive. What he didn't know was that Caroline was already prepared. Ethan Caldwell had been here before. He knew how to tighten the screws, how to shift the atmosphere from polite conversation to pressure. The audience sensed it too, the slight shift in his posture, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Caroline Levitt had handled his opening questions with ease, but now he was ready to take control. Leaning forward, he tapped his pen against the glossy desk between them, his voice taking on a casual yet pointed tone. "Caroline, you've certainly made a name for yourself, especially as one of the youngest voices in conservative politics," he said, pausing for effect. "But let's be honest. Some people question whether you've actually earned that platform, or if you're simply benefiting from media attention because, well, you're young, energetic, and easy to market." A few murmurs rippled through the audience, some smirked. The question wasn't outright disrespectful, but the undertone was clear. He was framing her as a political figure who had risen too quickly, who hadn't paid her dues. He expected her to falter, to scramble for legitimacy. Caroline didn't blink. Instead, she nodded slightly, as if she had expected this. "I see," she said smoothly, her voice even. "So experience isn't measured by ability, ideas, or results, but by how long someone has been in the game." Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. No, but when people think of true leaders, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, they think of figures who shaped history, who left undeniable marks on the country. Do you really think you belong in that conversation? A few laughs rippled through the audience. There it was, the moment he had been waiting for, the chance to make her look small. But Caroline remained unfazed. She tilted her head slightly, a knowing smile touching her lips. Then she leaned forward just enough to meet Ethan's gaze. "You ask if I belong in that conversation?" she said, her voice measured and deliberate. "Yet here we are on your show, discussing my career, my ideas, my impact. You could have invited anyone, but you chose me." For the first time that evening, Ethan hesitated. It was only for a moment, a flicker of uncertainty in his expression, but it was enough. Caroline continued, her voice steady. "You say leaders shape history, I agree. But history isn't just about the past, it's about who is shaping the future. So maybe the real question isn't whether I belong in that conversation, it's why you assumed I wouldn't." The silence deepened, then a few scattered claps, then more. The energy in the room was shifting, and Ethan could feel it. He let out a small chuckle, adjusting his suit jacket. "Well, I wasn't saying—" Caroline raised her hand slightly, not cutting him off, just pausing him with a single movement. "I know what you were saying," she said. "You think leadership should look a certain way, fit a certain mold. But true leadership isn't about meeting expectations. It's about exceeding them." Applause erupted, this time stronger, more decisive. The audience wasn't laughing anymore. Ethan tried to regain control, but something had changed. His usual tactics, baiting, diminishing, leading the guest into a corner, had failed. And now, for the first time, the audience saw it too. The shift in the room was undeniable. Ethan Caldwell, usually in complete control of his interviews, was losing his grip. His smirk faltered as he tried to recover. "Well, I wasn't saying you don't belong in the conversation," he muttered, forcing a chuckle. "I just meant—" Caroline didn't let him finish. She remained perfectly composed, offering a calm, knowing smile. "I understand," she said smoothly. "You didn't expect me to take control of this conversation. But leadership isn't about meeting expectations. It's about proving them wrong." The audience erupted into applause. This time louder, more certain. Ethan glanced at them, searching for some validation, but the energy in the room had shifted. He was no longer leading the moment, she was. By the next morning, the clip had gone viral. Social media exploded with reactions. Caroline Leavitt shuts down talk show host with just one line. A masterclass in handling media bias. Watch Caroline take control. Talk show host's tactics backfire spectacularly. Commentators debated, some praising her composure, others questioning the media's bias against young leaders. But one thing was clear. This was more than just an interview. It was a lesson in quiet strength. What do you think? Did Caroline handle it perfectly, or would you have responded differently? Let's discuss in the comments.